Rev up your engines!
Well, watch out for the Koreans. They have an affordable EV with tax breaks. They have a Kia EV3, which, after the tax break, would be $25,000, at least cheaper, so people could afford them. Now, this isn't for sale in the United States yet. They're going to sell it in Mexico first. This will be a very interesting thing here because the Koreans are our friends. We've got tons of Army guys still there, right? Are they going to put a tariff on Korean stuff coming to the United States like China? I doubt it. If this EV3 works, be another stab for the American electric cars because they can't make good cars cheap. They just can't. You know, decades ago, Toyota, Honda, Japanese came in. They ate the American car business out because they made good priced quality cars that could last forever, while the American cars, not only did they cost more, but the stupid things would break all the time. And it was a miracle in the 70s if you had an American car and it went over 100,000 miles. With the Japanese cars they were making, they go 200,000, 300,000, 400,000 miles. Well, if the Koreans can make electric cars, and they're not going to put a tariff on them, they would eat the Americans' lunch out. And of course, it's a smaller one. It's EV3. This isn't something that's supposed to go 8,000 miles on a charge. They say they can charge them 10 to 80% in 29 minutes. But still, for Americans, 29 minutes doesn't fit our lifestyles. And that's not at your house. That's at a fast charger. You plug it in your house, it's still going to take 7 to 10 hours. Like I say, the EV technology, as far as I'm concerned, it hasn't reached where it's going to fit our society. Let them work on it. Don't tell us we have to buy them now. We'll buy them when you perfect them. If you don't perfect them, we won't buy them. If you perfect them, we'll buy them. There has to be an advance if you expect people to buy a new technology, okay? Horses to cars. Cars were a big advance. They didn't poop on the ground like the horses. You could go a lot further. And they were actually cheaper than horses. Horses you got to feed, you got to put them in a barn. They get sick, you got to pay vet bills and stuff. The reason that Henry Ford made money was he sold an affordable car that could get people all over the place. And it was so much better than horses that people started buying them, and then they refined it from there. And they had a big advantage because the car was such an advantage over the horse. Even though it had problems in the beginning, tires went flat all the time and stuff, it still was a big improvement over horses. Electric cars are actually an on-improvement over cars we have today. And until they reach a pinnacle where they charge the same, they can go far, you can fill them up quick, there's plenty of infrastructure for them, and they're not too expensive, they're still way below gasoline cars. And until the technology of batteries and motors and charging infrastructure gets better, people aren't going to run out and buy them because they're not a better thing. Well, a U.S. Senator wants the U.S. manufacturers to sue the Treasury over the Inflation Reduction Act's EV tax credits. Joe Manchin says it extends reliance on Chinese materials for another year. See, here's the thing. All that stuff is a load of horse manure. This is supposed to be help America, right? And they keep allowing them to use Chinese-made batteries, Chinese parts, right? Because that's the way that it goes. Something like 88% of the car batteries made in the world, the electric vehicle car batteries made, are made in China. So, if they're not allowed to use Chinese stuff, they can't build the stupid cars, right? Personally, I think it's a good thing. Who cares? How many people really want these stupid electric cars? It's been proven that people aren't that interested in it. I just read a research that said less than 15% of even Canadians were thinking about buying an electric car. They see that it's not practical in a cold country that doesn't have the infrastructure for charging up electric cars. You know, some places do, some don't. Like Ontario gets a lot of their power from nukes. So they got electricity, and they could put out the charging stations. They're not there, but they could. The rest of Canada hardly uses nukes at all. They don't have extra electricity they can mess around with. So it would be a real stinky deal if they drove electric cars, it's cold, and they couldn't charge the stupid things up, right? The rules, the final rules that they have for this inflation reduction, what a load of baloney that is, allows the use of Chinese materials in EV batteries until 2027, okay? That's another 3 years, right? And they're trying to say, we're trying to save American jobs. Yeah, BS. They also include Mexico. So if you make something in Mexico, that counts as an American job because it's North America. These politicians are a bunch of sleazy politicians, lawyers, most of them are lawyers, right? And anybody pays them, they'll say whatever they want. Look at this nonsense. It's supposed to save American jobs, but they include Mexican jobs as American jobs because it's part of North America. So that doesn't have the tariff and the ban that they do from supposedly stuff come from China. And then even though they don't do it from the stuff from China, because, well, we'll put a little disclaimer, these things we can use, you know, and there already are a bunch of Chinese companies that are starting to build factories in the United States to make electric stuff. Now, maybe we won't buy the cars, so the factories will all go down by the wayside. Some of them they were going to build, they've already canceled. So, you never know that. But I just find it funny. He wants the manufacturers to sue the government for letting more Chinese stuff in. Although the government made these rules that was supposed to stop it, but then they put a little disclaimer. These batteries are okay, even if they come from China. They're all trying to say, oh, electric cars are the future. The Volvo S60 sales just soared 281%. These are gasoline-powered cars. That went up 281%. While the sales of Volvo's electric car, the C40, have plummeted right down the toilet. And last month, Volvo only sold 91, not 9,100, just 91 of these things. People do not want electric car, but especially the Volvo electric car. The Volvo electric car is kind of a real mistake that Volvo came out with. I checked one out, and it was actually a good car. It ran fine. They made it in conjunction with Polestar, but then they split apart, and Volvo said, we're going to make them by ourselves. Polestar presently is almost being delisted on the New York Stock Exchange. But the main thing that I can figure out about why the Volvo electric car is failing is this. People who buy Volvos want a Volvo. They want kind of a luxury car, take the kids to soccer matches, no problems, don't have to worry about anything, drive them a really long time. They had a very good reputation for being long-lasting cars that are safe and get decent gas mileage, right? These people that buy those cars don't want to have the inconvenience of plugging an electric car, dealing with all that crap. If they break, nobody knows how to fix them, right? So, when I did the video on a Volvo electric car, I really was impressed. Watch it, you'll see. I was impressed. I said, if this was an electric car, I'd think about buying one, right? But in that same video, I showed that this was a $67,000 car, and I could find the same Volvo electric cars that were 1 year older, because it was a new one, so the previous year models, in Nashville, they were going for $20,000 to $25,000 with anywhere from 15,000 to 25,000 miles on them. No resale value. This is not a car that anybody wants, right? So now, they sold 281% more of their S60s gas models, but they only sold 91 of the electric cars. Nobody wants them. It's not their market. That's not the person who wants those cars. Mercedes-Benz is finding out the same thing. People want Mercedes, want a luxury car, dependable, they can drive it all over the place, not worry. They don't particularly want an electric car. And they're having the same problem, but Volvo's is just massive. Nobody wants those electric Volvo cars for various reasons. The company didn't think of the history. It's kind of an analogy of this is Harley-Davidson and their electric motorcycles. Harley-Davidson fans don't want an electric motor. They want a loud motorcycle. They don't want one that could go only a few miles, run out of electricity, and strand you in the middle of nowhere on the highway. They want to be able to tour all over the place, right? So that live wire Harley was failed massively. They're even worse. There's one period when they sold 91 of the Volvo electric cars. They sold like 18 Harley live wires. Nobody wants these things. Well, if you remember the video I did a few days ago about that man in Michigan was on some kind of Zoom meeting or something at a court in Michigan for driving without a license, and he was driving without a license while he was making the call. The judge found out about it, but then later they threw it out and said, oh, it's a mistake. Well, guess what? They didn't throw it out again because it turns out that this guy never even had a driver's license in the first place. Government bureaucracy, right? And they try to act, the guy says, oh, I'm a churchgoer, I'm an honest citizen and stuff. He also had warrants for not paying child support. Hey, the guy's a scumbag, right? And he's just using this guise of, oh, I go to church, what a load of horse manure, right? The judge, J. Cedric Simpson, said Wednesday he went through all the records and found out that Corey Harris, the man who was talking on the phone while he was driving a car to a judge, I guess they let you do it through meetings without being there, to the judge who was doing a trial about him driving without a driver's license. Well, the judge says that Corey Harris never had a valid driver's license in the first place. It turns out in Michigan, you can get IDs that kind of look like a driver's license, but they aren't. Or you can get a driver's license, but you can't have both. Well, this guy only had the official ID. He never had a driver's license. This guy's a scam artist, right? I mean, hey, he doesn't pay his child support. You can see the guy's a scumbag. First, the judge let him off, and then he did a little research and found out, hey, this guy never had a license in the first place. Guy's got brass balls, I'll give him that. It gets more and more bizarre, too. Harris course, the guy who was making a phone call while he was driving a car without a license previously said he went through the steps to have his license reinstated after it was suspended. The judge found out that this was also true, but somehow court officials and the Department of Motor Vehicles never bothered to check whether he actually had a valid license in the first place. And it turns out he didn't. I guess he was doing Richard Nixon's The Big Lie. If you tell a big enough lie, people will believe it. Who would think that this guy who's 44 never did have a driver's license, but he didn't? Now, he spent 2 days in jail after the first one when he phoned in driving a car and didn't have a license. Absolute insanity in Michigan. So if you never want to miss another one of my new car repair videos, remember to ring that bell.